Hello, my name is Bernd Brielbeck. I'm working for a consulting company called SCC, Scientific Consulting Company. There are plenty of challenges, of course. One of the most important ones is hazard-based assessment. As you know, there's been a change from the old risk-based assessment to first hazard-based assessments. There are more than that. Also, there is a tendency that we've seen that only studies can be dealt with by the authorities. If there is no study, a scientific argumentation is not so easily accepted as it might have been in the past. The most important issue, of course, is delays by authorities. The authorities need an extraordinary time in some cases to come to conclusions, if they come to conclusions at all. I have rarely heard of a conclusion being reached within the prescribed time frame. Well, of course, stay scientific. Try to go in with arguments as much as possible and supplement them by studies if we consider them to be needed. And as to the delays and contradicting evaluation by different member states, unfortunately we more often now see that clients are willing to take legal actions against the authorities. That has not been such in the past, but it's been rising and becoming more and more as the delays also become more and more. But of course the first point is to stay in touch with the authorities, to argue with the authorities, to convince the authorities of the active substance or the product as we have presented it originally in the dossier. Yeah, there are two completely different approaches. The US approach is originally based on a definition, which I like to call top-down approach. So there is a big definition at the top, and then everything is trying to be fit into this definition. And by this definition also the data requirements are defined. Europe has a completely different approach. There is no such definition in the European legislation. There is also, as far as I know, no biopesticide expression in the respective legislation. So what I like to call a bottom-up approach is by defining desirable or undesirable properties of an active ingredient, it is then evaluated according to different risk categories: basic substance, low-risk substance, and any other substance. But nothing has been predefined. It's being evaluated in the process. I think the bottom-up approach is more versatile because you are not predefining any actions and keeping an open eye for any issues. You do assess all the different active ingredients. You're not limited. The European legislation explicitly states any substance, including microorganisms. So not excluding anything which might not be biological, not be natural, or any other such issue. So, in my opinion, the bottom-up approach, the European approach, is the more versatile approach. This is a very important point because I think the future is dual, biopesticide, I'm using the word, although it's not in the legislation, plus classical chemicals. So the initiatives being started must be effective from what we observe, because we do observe many foreign companies that we consult on coming in with biopesticide or biological pesticides of any different kinds, including microbials. So it is effective by drawing more such desired active ingredients into the European market. AR3 will hit full force, which is the active ingredients renewal. for the first time. Air 2 will be finished by June, and then Air 3 work will come in. After that, the first Article 43 reauthorizations of plant protection products will have to be evaluated. And in addition, which also been in the presentation this morning, the candidate for substitution and the comparative assessment must be done by the member state. All this is additional work, is workload that will add up and eventually will make the delays even worse and maybe even delay submissions further into the future. That's an authority question. Well, that's a question to the authority. But I think the point is, or the important point is, that the duplication of work must be reduced by the authorities. And there are more points that I would like to just raise. Candidates for substitution in 2016 will come. ED, endocrine disrupting roadmap, has now been forced by legal action to be brought forward and will also add work. On your question how to remedy those issues is go dual. Not only classical chemicals is an approach most companies take. They do, if they have the classical chemicals, also investigate biopesticide, microbials, or any such active ingredients. And most importantly, the market will stay the same size. So plant protection is necessary. The market will remain almost the same. Some players will be scared away by additional work, by all the points that we have raised. So the market share for each remaining player certainly will be larger in the end. That's an interesting question, of course, but the point is, as I was saying, there are presentations that are actually dealing directly with the issues that I've raised. The question about US and European difference in biopesticide is a part that I'm taking up in my presentation. And Article 43, Air 3, all those issues are exactly taken up by the presentations, not only by industry, more importantly, by the authorities themselves. Secondly, it's a great place to meet authorities, discuss such issues with them, and then hopefully come to a common understanding.